Hey there. Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. This is where we dive into real conversations, share stories, and just hang out talking about finding our purpose in retirement. We're glad you're along for the ride, and let's get into it. Happy holidays, Curt, Dale. Welcome again to the Redirect Podcast. This one, the final episode not only of the year, but the final episode of Season 1. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to a close on Season 1.
What a gift this has been.
Congratulations.
And, it's to all of us, and thank you to everybody that's listening. It's we're hearing great comments that the conversations we're having amongst ourselves as well as with guests have been really resonating, and what a great gift.
Yeah.
And so thank you guys. Congratulations on all the work behind the scenes, and happy holidays to you guys.
Definitely the work behind the scenes, but what a year of guests. I think about everybody that we've had on, and we have had people all over the spectrum, male, female. You know, we couldn't have guessed how we were going to fill up the year with wonderful guests, and we did.
Do you guys have plans for New Year's?
Yeah.
New Year's at our house is really very quiet. Both Jackie and I in earlier lives used to work in the restaurant or bar industry, and I hated being a bouncer in a bar on New Year's Eve. A bunch of amateurs, people just out there for the sake of getting drunk, and I don't really do that. So what we generally do at our
You're
house...
more of a fan of a professional drunk?
Well, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right, okay? No, what we generally do is just have a real nice meal. I mean, a real nice meal. We'll go a little bit higher in the cost budget for that particular meal, and we'll cook up something, have a nice glass of wine and such, listen to some music for our dinner, and then we sit back at home and just sort of watch all the television shows that are on, and
All the classics.
all the classic stuff, and all the ABC. I miss Dick Clark. We would watch that every year, but he's still living through it, I guess. I guess what's his face is Ryan
Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest is the new host for that, but it's very low key, and majority of the time I'm in bed before midnight. So
New Year's this year, typically I resemble everything you said, but my evening always involved when the boys were home. It was really fun because I'd break out the fireworks and we would blow the fireworks off. And
That's so great.
Oh yeah, it was fun. In fact,
I'm doing that this year.
One year, and I can say this. My wife would always go to bed before New Year's. She kind of peters out, and that's that. Took the boys out for fireworks.
No shame.
No. And one of my fireworks went haywire and went right at my boys.
Oops.
And kind of hit them while it was blowing as a 3 repeat, boom, 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 boom.
Ooh.
And then it was all kind of around their feet, and they just thought it was the wildest thing. But the first thing they had to do is run upstairs and tell Mom how fun it was having a firework shot at their feet. I still hear about it on New Year's, about never again. You do not do that stuff. But this year, I think my mom, who's been on the show, is celebrating her 93rd birthday in Chicago, and there's going to be a get-together on the 3rd. So we're probably going to head up to Chicago and find a nice, comfortable place to settle in, maybe with one of my brothers and sisters, and
Excellent.
And have, again, an evening indoor. Like I said, I like to be indoors because I think it's great family time.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
So my birthday is the 31st.
Oh my goodness! You were a tax credit.
Yeah.
You were a tax credit.
Duly
baby.
noted here.
Yes,
Birthday card too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to sing happy birthday
Let's not.
later.
Right. Let's do it off mic.
Wow.
Let's do it off mic. Yeah. So you referenced Dick Clark. Until I was 9, I thought Dick Clark celebrated my birthday. And consequently, that was also the year I found out that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Oh my gosh!
9 years old. That was also the same year my sister took me to see Amityville Horror.
Wow.
It was a tough year.
Was that the same year that you started paying renter's insurance?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the hit parade of all the great episodes this year.
Still paying it.
You got the dunce cap.
Still
for Adam.
paying it.
All right, so the thing I want to take us through today in somewhat of a free-form conversation is the idea of being a lifelong learner. If you could set goals for yourselves for 2026, I would encourage the idea of choosing some things to learn along the way. But we've heard from some of our guests over the past bunch of recent episodes a couple of references to this idea of being a lifelong learner or a learner for life. And I think that's such an intriguing concept, and I think it's really important to address that for, our listeners, because I think it has the possibility, if it's applicable to the populace, it has the possibility of really enriching some people's lives and kind of changing their course. So, first of all, before we get into some specifics about what that could look like, what is this lifelong learner thing as you've heard it from our guests or explored it for yourself?
Every guest that's brought up, being a learner, being a lifelong learner, has the characteristic of just being curious. This was really important in our business for all the years that we were in kind of this creative business. Creativity was curiosity, and I think the people that I see that do this well, that mention it, have that characteristic of just wanting to see or learn something different, and for me, that lifelong learner is somebody who acts upon that curiosity, who does something about it and goes and finds something new, and so to answer your question, I see that in those people, that energy to not only be curious but act on it.
Yeah. I mean, I share that. It's sort of interesting that of late, a lot of our guests in our pre-conversations or even on the podcast itself are talking about learner for life, which I'm digesting, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm not that guy. I'm not a New Year's resolution guy.
Yeah.
I'm not I did goals, and throughout my whole life, in all different jobs that I've had, there's always been goals and objectives and all that such. And it's all focused in a certain category, right? But myself, I'm learning, but I don't think I'm really learning as I would like to learn, if that makes, or things that I want to learn about. I'm still very focused on stuff, and what's the phrase? Is it myopic, where you just zoom in? And I do that, and I get too deep, and I all of a sudden don't see things around me, and I need to be, even though I talk about being aware, I am aware of things, but I'm not focusing in on other things. I am curious. I am fascinated in stuff, but let's just admit it, I just don't make the time to do it.
I was just going to ask you what gets in the way, but that word busyness is real. I mean, you'd start, and it's that process of prioritizing, I think, and taking a look and you've got the time, a little bit more time than you ever had before, to look at, what it is that you want to do. And you can, but it's really hard because you do go all in, Curt. I know you, when you do something, you go all in. I'm not as deep as that because, as I tell everybody, I'm always ADD and running off, but busyness will kill all of a sudden I realize a week's gone by and I did not do anything about something that I really wanted to do that was on my list. And why didn't I make the time for that? I didn't prioritize it and take the time to prioritize it.
Yeah.
Let me separate, if I can. Maybe it'll help the conversation.
Well, wait a minute. Where are you with this?
Well,
don't be jumping to us.
No. I can. My setup here is going to help guide my conversation, inform my response.
You got a plan to the free form then? Okay, I love it.
Let's separate learning information. Like, I'm going to go figure out what Napoleon was really like, whatever, from learning skills, techniques, abilities, gaining attributes to your arsenal of things you can do. I now know how to do an X or a Y. So let's bifurcate this learning concept, information versus.
See, you have to educate me
capabilities.
right now. I'm learning. What's bifurcate?
To separate.
Okay. Well, see, I'm learning.
There you go.
Thank you. And I will apply it. I will use it later on.
Think of me.
I'm sorry, but what is the difference between me having a need to go know Napoleon and do a skill?
Great question. So I think you can sit and feel free to correct me or change the course of the conversation today. I think you can go read a book about Napoleon and be informed and having learned some things. And I don't want to diminish that. That is good. We'll talk in a little bit about neuroplasticity, et cetera. But that's good. But the effort, the cognitive engagement that it takes to learn a skill, a talent, a technique, a trade, a hobby, it's possibly physical. It's gaining dexterity in some regards. It is practice. You have to inform yourself over time, potentially have to get a coach, all of the things necessary to gain a particular skill over time. Do you disagree with this approach?
It's really interesting, but for me to sit down and read a book takes everything you just talked about in skills. I almost need a coach. I need to be physical to go find a chair to sit in, and then I've got to sit in it for 2 hours or 3 hours, which I actually did for the first time this week. Well, not the first time this week, but I just made time to do it, and it was almost physically hard.
Yeah, it's almost torture, right?
And I know that's not a popular thing to say, but I have a dear friend who reads a lot and just so satiated with the knowledge and what I see physically happening to the brain and everything else, to the stuff that they go read, just borders on that. And that's why I'm kind of questioning it, but I'm applying it to me, and it's just harder for me.
Then the reading part, I want to be able to read, first of all. No.
Go to the internet. There's
a lot of people
reading.
Explain things to me because
Have you heard of Ms. Rachel?
Gold star for Dale.
But your point, Dale, about sitting in the chair and actually reading. Okay, when I try to do this, first of all, I got to get off self-help books. I got to start learning that type of stuff. I also have to just read something that's fun. All right, to take myself someplace else. And in golf, in other events that we do, when you're even working with wood, or in a skill set like that, you prepare yourself for that. Okay, so what's the preparation for people that can't sit in a chair for an hour to read a book or 3 hours to read a book? Because I find myself, I open up the book and I'll read the first page, and then all of a sudden something will be mentioned in the page which makes my mind go over here, and I start thinking about those things, and I'm just looking at words, but I'm not comprehending what they're saying, and I'm at the next page, and I'm like, I don't know what those last 3 paragraphs said. So I have to condition myself to get my mind set. And it happens even when I listen to devotions. I'll start off on a walk and I'll hear something, and then all of a sudden my mind will go, and I'm like, nope, got to go back, start over again. And then I say, focus, stay on this. And that's hard. That's hard.
I can offer a technique that might help, and it isn't sitting down for 2 hours. It's sitting down for 10 minutes. Turn 10 minutes into 15. Do that over time. I can now sit comfortably focused and accomplish the goal for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now stretch that.
Yeah.
And it may take, I don't know, I'm making up a time. It may take 2 months. It may take 6 months to get to 2 hours. But that idea of disciplining yourself to be able to focus, to stay after it, and then specifically talking about reading, the idea of taking notes or some kind of mechanism to articulate what did I comprehend from this. Those are things that I want to start doing. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I understand the concept. I'm just saying I want to start doing, because I like to listen to books. I usually find myself double, triple tasking, like I'm listening to a audiobook while I'm mowing the lawn kind of stuff. And that's sometimes the nature of just where I am in my season of life. But the idea of changing that outcome by applying a different type of discipline could help.
You made the comment earlier about information versus skill set. I know people that would love to read about Napoleon, and then they still apply it to things today.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? Not necessarily war strategies,
Sure.
but it's the idea of what was life like in that era of history. How did people mobilize? How did people do things? And now you're all of a sudden learning that, well, because this happened back then and through the years, we've now evolved, or the process has gone on to this, but it originated back in that time period. If you understand where I'm going.
Yeah, you're engaging your imagination at that point.
Correct. But you're also seeing how things have progressed over time. That, there could have been something that happened in the, French Revolution that was, the first time in the French Revolution, but now through years and years and years of time, it has now evolved into this, but it originated in the French Revolution. That to me is taking an informational story and applying it to how it's living in the world today, type of thing. And my wife is big on that. She loves to read stuff that happened years and years and years and years ago. Corrie ten Boom, her book of being in the concentration camp. That's information, but you're taking that information and you're applying her methodology of how she dealt with those situations in today's time. And that to me is taking information and applying it to create a skill and a development opportunity.
Deal. Then I'll pull back on my bifurcation. I will
There is that word again.
Unbifurcate, whatever that word is.
Just bring it together a little. Just bring it. They're not that
Unify.
far apart.
Unify.
One does work with the other. To be honest with you,
Fair
I think it's closer.
So where do we think we are in this idea of continuing education in varying forms?
Well, if I can jump in, this is something that I've wanted to do for, I'm going to say, decades. Okay, it's a guitar.
Like build them or play them?
Play them. All right. I purchased a guitar decades ago, and it's sitting in the case. Sometimes I bring it out and put it in the stand and look at it because that's going to get me doing it. But then no. Then all of a sudden we rearrange the room and it goes back in the case. And I've always wanted to play the guitar. So fascinatingly enough, and how God works, I'm sitting around and I happen to get into the scroll thing. And then I heard this advertisement from Tony Polcastro. And I'd like to share it with you if I can.
Okay.
If you're over 50, retired, or just feel like it's too late to start, give me 2 minutes and I'll shatter the lie that's keeping you from going all in on learning guitar. Because somewhere right now, a guitar sits in the corner, covered in dust, bought with good intentions, dreams, promises. I'll start when work slows down. I'll start when the kids are older. I'll start when I retire. And then years pass. The music never begins because someday is a lie. I've heard it 1,000 times. I tried lessons but felt too far behind. I bought all the books but I got lost in the pages. I told myself I wasn't talented, that I was too old. That lie steals more than music. It steals confidence. It steals joy. It steals the chance to play a simple song for your spouse in the kitchen or strum a tune your grandkids will remember for the rest of their lives. Every day you wait, the strings grow colder and the silence grows louder. But what if you picked it up anyway? Not to master, not to impress, just to play.
Just to play. And I have to admit, hearing that has inspired me to get the guitar out of the box, out of the case, and to sit down and do it.
How fortuitous. Like you just came across this. This is a new thing.
Oh, it happened 2 days ago.
That's cool.
2 days ago when I'm laying there in bed and just sort of scrolling a little bit. And again, obviously it's on my Facebook page or whatever it is because I have interest in guitar. And then lo and behold, this came on and just hit me right to the core. Every excuse that he talked about, that's me.
He broke him down.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And later on in the spot, he makes this comment. He says, look at the guitar in the corner. It's not a decoration. It's an invitation. Okay, now that's me and my guitar. And I'm going to do something about it, as we talk about here on the Redirect podcast. Go do something about it. Well, guess what? I am going to be intentional, and I need you guys to keep me accountable later on in other episodes. Hey, how's that guitar thing going? Maybe I'll come in and play. What do you think?
I love it.
I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, you can substitute guitar for anything. What is that thing that I'll wait until I retire? What is that thing that I'll do at another time, or I don't have time to do it now? But that was just so timely, Adam, as you just said, and I need that kind of stuff. I'm still that wannabe athlete that needs that coach to get in my face and say, okay, you've put this off long enough. Time to go do something about it, because you don't know what it's going to be like when you do it. And when you get into it, you get into it. And as we were talking about before with books, it's hard for me to take off into a book. But once I get into the book and I feel that I'm a part of the book, then I won't put it down. I need to do the same thing with the guitar. I need to chord it. I need to hold it. I need to have it with me. You know, football players, they always hold the football even if they're not playing, just to hold the football.
I think there's real value in dexterity. What dexterity does for you is it creates muscle memory, it creates familiarity, it creates capability. Both, and I think there's mental dexterity as well as physical dexterity. Muscle memory is a thing, and embracing it, hanging out with it, touching it is a really good thing for all of that. And there's real growth that comes from that, I think.
So I want to just dig a little, just because I'm very interested. Why the guitar? What is it about the guitar that you have this desire to want to play it?
I love music. I've sort of shared that with you in the past, that, my brother Jeff is the reason why I have embraced music and know so much music because of him. Not too long ago, in November 17th, I went to Buffalo and went to the Paul McCartney concert with my brother Jeff, which was, wow. Great event. My sister was there as well. And what an event to see one of the largest musical icons in our recent history, modern history, as far as rock and roll, a band that I just admire and love, can't hear enough of it. And I love music. I just love music. I talked about the one time about doing these little journal items, music in my life, and writing a journal around that. And again, I'm going back to old school. I recently purchased a turntable, and I'm now playing vinyl again. And I have the big receiver, and I have the big CD player, and now I've got the turntable to it. And we're going to put it in our living room as a focal point, because it's so cool to just go back and listen to Grand Funk and listen to Marshall Tucker Band. And I love music. And that's one of the frustration parts for me, because I have tried to play the guitar, and it's like, you got to do the chords, bring, bring. And I want to sit there and say, no, teach me how to play Blackbird. That's a tough one. But teach me how to play a simple song so that I can pluck. As I keep telling people, teachers, that I've even had a teaching course, I'm like, I know chords are important that come, but will you teach me how to pluck? I just want to ding, like you do on a piano, and you can play notes on a piano and you know that's a song. When you do a chord, put the chords together, it makes a song. But when you have that definitive string that's playing on certain notes, Stairway to Heaven, all of a sudden people look at you and like, oh, that's Stairway to Heaven. And that's what I want to do. I want to play a song right away. Well, guess what? I have to, I got to start at 101.
Yeah,
I
100.
And as we learned today, I have to learn how to read. Now I got to learn how to read music.
Jeez.
Years and years ago, this reminds me of when I first moved to Cincinnati. I'd lived in Green Bay for a short period of time, and I refinished an upright piano that had been painted over 3 or 4 times. And it was more my love of wanting to get back to wood and then having something that would play good music. And I actually moved that darn thing from Green Bay to Cincinnati. And I said, I'm in the midst of starting a new job at Procter & Gamble, where I was, and getting my MBA, I wanted to learn how to play piano. So I hired a teacher. and went through. The first thing she said was 3 weeks of music theory. Sorry, pal, you're not going to touch the keys until you know music. You know, but and I'm telling the story because I fitted in. I took action on something. I wanted to be able to sit down and play. You know, my brother years and years and years ago, he played organ all the time. And he taught me House of the Rising Sun, and I still remembered the chords, and I could apply that to piano, and all of a sudden I could sit down at any piano and play that song, and people would think I knew how to play piano.
Right.
And when I was with this music teacher, she taught me the Moonlight Sonata, which is a much more difficult piece, but I memorized it because I wanted to be able to sit down. And but that desire, and I'm like, wow, I have now the opportunity, so much more than back then, to be able to do that. And I've got to admit that you and I had talked about this very recently. And there's something that I want to do very similar, but it's to play banjo. I always wanted to play banjo. And guess what? Today I pick up a banjo. A friend of mine has a banjo. He's got a lot of guitars. He's a very accomplished guitarist. But he always told me he had a banjo, and I sent him a text yesterday and said, gee, Dean, do you still have that banjo, and could I borrow it? Because I know there's a course out there that is a lot like what you described and played for our guests. You know, but all of a sudden, and of course I looked at my wife, Fran, and said, I'm picking up a banjo today. And she just kind of rolled her eyes because it's another one of those things. However, the last time I did that, it was a coney head, and I made that happen.
There you go.
And she's still rolling her eyes
She's
about
still
that, too.
rolling her eyes.
So you could potentially be playing with Steve Martin someplace.
No.
He's a very well-known banjo player.
I could be playing with you, Curt. We could have a duo. If we can get Adam to pick up an instrument.
He could do the jug.
We could have
spoons. I'm going to do spoons.
But going back, I love music. Whenever I hear banjo, I go into the mountains. It's a happy place for me. Banjo music makes me smile. Yeah. Because it's generally, it's not a downer. It's generally
you can't take it too seriously.
Yeah, it's a kind of an upper. That's true. But it's the love of music. It makes me smile, and it sends me to a place. And there's a lot of more recent bands like Camp that I listen to that just happen to have banjo in the music, and there's something different. There's something added to that gets me going. But thank you, Curt, for doing what you did, bringing that. I listened to that guy talk, and I was just like, totally me too. So I think hopefully for our guests, you hear that and you get spurred on to go ahead and step out and do it.
Yeah. Adam, you got anything?
Yeah, I recently, probably about a week and a half ago, picked up chess via Duolingo. Duolingo now.
It means you speak different language when you say checkmate?
Look, I'm just learning how to move the pawns right now, so I'm not the checkmate yet. But no, I'm learning how to play chess.
That's cool.
It feels like something I should have known for a long time, but I don't know how to play.
I would think you'd be very, very good at chess just because of the way you think, and you're very strategic, I think.
He's analytical.
Yeah.
He thinks about stuff.
He's going to talk about some sort of connection synapses or something later.
But I bifurcate.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the word of the day.
Now you're just making fun of me.
No, we're not.
I'm kidding.
This is with love.
Of course.
With love.
So much love.
We're smiling. We're smiling. You don't see us, but we're smiling.
So I got a question. We sort of talk about congratulations for learning chess. And once you get a little bit better, I got some great nephews that can give you a lesson. All right.
Give me a lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Mop the floor
I'm
with me.
saying I know I have a 6-year-old that is learning the game of chess right now, who's one of my great nephews. So.
Cool.
We will rejoin our conversation in just a moment. Thank you for listening to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate your support. Do you love what you're hearing? Don't keep it to yourself. Follow the Redirect Podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and never miss an episode that inspires your next chapter in life's journey. While you're there, hit a 5-star rating. leave a review, and share your favorite episode with a friend who's ready for their own life pivot. And don't forget to join the conversation on Instagram at The Redirect Podcast. Comment, tag us, and let us know how you are redirecting your journey. Now let's get back to today's conversation. So I have a question for you guys. We're talking about learning, and we've talked about how we've wanted to do some things, but we haven't. Do you know somebody that you feel is really a learner for life, and that's sort of a big focal point to them?
think I'm married to one. My wife, Fran, has always been, I mean, she has a love of horses. She's great, a great rider. She was California state champion Western show, and proceeded to introduce me to riding out in the mountains in Montana. And through life circumstances, she moved to the Midwest and ultimately had to change what kind of riding she did to English. And so then there's different forms of English riding. And more recently, the only type of riding she's never done has been dressage on English. So she went from Western to English. But she's like, I just never did dressage. And she did hunters, jumpers before this and competed. And I'm like, so are you going to compete? She goes, no, I just love riding. And this is the only type of riding I've never done. And I want to do it. And now she takes 2 lessons a week to learn something she could easily have done anything else with horsemanship. But now she's, learning something totally new. And that's an example to me of just lifelong learner. In this time of her life, she's attacking something totally new on something she's been doing almost her entire life.
Interesting. I would say I have 2 people in mind. I think my wife, Sandy, she's about to dive into learning how to fuse glass. So, she's very interested in continuing to learn, and she has that as a future passion. And then I would say the guy we know that I think is impressive in his knowledge set now and is discontent with the stasis of that is Dan Owens. That guy is not just well informed. There's a difference between smart and educated. Just because you know a lot doesn't mean you're very smart. And just because you don't know a lot doesn't mean you're not smart. So I think people misconstrue that. But Dan Owens is a fella. I think it's impressive how much he thirsts after knowledge, informed.
Yeah, for me, it's my wife, Jackie. I've watched it for years. She has this statement that she says, "I cannot not learn." She finds learning fascinating. She engages and throws herself into it to the point where everybody sort of makes comments about her. The master, what is it?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
They say, Jackie, you're the jack of all trades and the master of none. And I disagree with that, because she is a jack of all trades in what she does. She gets into canning. And not just fruit, she's doing meats, so she's doing pressure canning, all right, and learning the science behind pressure canning. She gets into herbs. She grows her own herbs. She dries her herbs. She uses her herbs for teas and other medicinal things, so we're incorporating things. She'll go out and work in the gardens, and she'll find bugs on the back of a leaf, and she will examine and watch the bugs, and then she'll research the bugs and find out why the bugs are there. And then she's getting in all this stuff with plants and just recognizing where, God has placed plants around us in certain regions because we need whatever is coming from the plant in order to help us in this particular environment.
It's part of an ecosystem.
Right. But that's what I'm saying about, I admire her so much because she can just go and then dive in and learns all this stuff. She's so eclectic with all the knowledge that she has, and she is so good. And she's always been a painter, but now I'm dabbling with watercolor, and I'm learning watercolor. And she tells me, "Do you realize you only need so many colors, and then you can make this, and then how water affects it after you put it on the paper a little bit? Then you add more water, and then it sort of changes the look of it altogether." And I'm like, I wish I had that ability to dive in like she does, and like she you know what? Here I'm talking like I can't do it. I can do this. I have to make the time do it. She makes one comment. She called me. She says, "Don't get into a grut."
What is a grut?
She goes, "Some of us find our groove, and we get into our groove, and then you get into something that's a rut or a routine." So that's me, as I sort of talked about earlier. I get into something.
Yeah.
I get into that channel. I get into that track. And I go, here's another example using the word track, just comes to my mind. When I don't know if I was dating Jackie or if it was early in our marriage, but we went cross-country skiing. All right, so here's Curt. Well, you go cross-country skiing, you get your skis in the track, and you go. It's a workout. And just see how fast we can go, how long we can go, get a good sweat going, get the heart going. She's like, "No, let's go through the woods." I'm like, "But there's no track." And she goes, "No, let's go through the woods."
Let's make
and I'm
a
like,
track.
"But you can't go fast. You're moving around trees and sticks." And she goes, "Let's go through the woods."
That is such a metaphor of you two as people.
Yeah. And that's the aspect of the grut. I get into this tendency that I get into things and then I go into that. But I'm not getting out of the routine. I'm not getting out of the rut. I'm not getting out of the groove to see where this can lead me. You know what I mean? And that's a gift that she has. That's a gift that I admire. And I have to be deliberate. I have to be intentional, and I have to do something about it. I can't make any more excuses because I'm the one getting in the way.
Well, I think there's a lesson in being present in that, because I think Fran catches this with me all the time, is all of a sudden I'm going to do something and then I start doing it and I get excited about it. And then all of a sudden I'm now valuing this versus this. Wait a second, what's my end result? What do I want to accomplish out of this? And I go out there. All of a sudden I'm back sometimes thinking like I'm at work and I'm going to create a plan to go do that. What do you mean? But I mentioned the banjo, and she said, "And what do you want to do?" And I said, "I just want to play. I want to hear it. I want to know it's coming from me. I know I'm accomplishing something. I get to learn something new." But that's a great lesson. And I think being present.
One thing I want to throw on this is that, what I've talked about, and sort of you're alluding to it a little bit, Dale, is that we're looking at now at the banjo and we're looking at now at the guitar. Okay? Great. We'll learn that. But don't let that become the grut. All right? So, for example, Jackie also made a comment that she is fascinated with learning. She likes the hows and the whys. Mm-hmm. So let's think about when we get into the banjo, that you can learn about what's the history of the banjo. Mm-hmm. How did it come about? How is it used? How does it complement? Where then all of a sudden you make it grow horizontally versus the vertical aspect of just playing it, is how can it be going across all things? And how does it relate in my life? And how does it make me feel? And how can I do this? And then as a result, you're finding yourself, well, let's go to this concert because they have these great banjo players. Right. So your world starts to expand. But if you don't think about the fascination, the curiosity, like you mentioned earlier, that creates that horizontal awareness to then now you're getting into it and you're pushing yourself and you're learning. And this happens in everything in life.
And it's okay. It's okay to expand out like that. Something I've probably fought my whole life. I'm going to go do this. But I would love to. I love that the banjo is an all-American, invented here instrument. I totally dig that little bit, but that would drive me to the history of the banjo.
You can
Where
tell
did it
me
start?
for 30 minutes, you could talk to me about Crisco. Mm-hmm. And you know it. Front and back and front. I can do the same thing on footwear. Okay? Back and front, all over the place. I know it all. Why don't we spend that type of energy on things that get us excited, that are joys? And that's one thing that Jackie says, I just find joy in learning, and it should never stop.
Can I counterpoint this?
Sure.
Please.
We invite
Adam,
invite that.
So I love the idea of going not just deep on a topic, but wide, and figure out where else does this can have meaning or interest for me. I love that a lot. But some people, that overwhelms them. Some people, man, I just want to figure out the chords on my guitar, because I got to start somewhere, and I'm gonna get into this more methodically, and I'm gonna explore it and experience it as I go along. And as I gain proficiency, I'll also gain interest, and I'll gather that stuff over time. But the idea of learning and understanding the breadth and the width of this particular thing can be overwhelming to some people. Now, I think it's fantastic that you get something that can have that kind of variety, but that's not everybody's thing.
Okay, Adam, I'm going to come back at you.
I love it.
All right?
Bring it.
I get it. Earlier, Dale, I was going to make a comment that it doesn't matter how fast you learn these things, but it's what's the important part is that you're making progress and you're learning something, right? So you made this example about somebody that just wants to just play the chord. Well, let's use an example like a phone. I buy a phone so I can call somebody, but this thing that's in my hand, all the things that I can do with it that's in my hand.
Power the space shuttle.
Well, yeah, but the things I can do with it, if I just use it to make a phone call, then I'm not fully taking advantage of the phone. If I just get into a car and say it's going to take me from point A to point B, you buy a brand new car, let me go drive to point B, but that I didn't hear about how the car and all the things within the car can make my driving experience that much better, I should learn about the car. I should learn about the phone and its capabilities and how it can cross into other things in my life, because this phone, I can now connect to my television. I can now connect to my stereo. I can now connect to my banking. But if we just sit back and say, I just want to make a phone call, and that's where my rut is, well, then you're shutting yourself down from some other thing. I don't want to be preaching, but it's just, it's an awareness.
And I struggle with that because I just bought a new car. I just went back to the MDX. The information that's available to me in that car, is awe-inspiring. I only need to drive this thing to get me from here to there and make the ride as entertaining as possible. But when I went online the other night and Googled how to set up all of my navigation and all of the options I have in that car right now, including changing the lighting in the car door, 7 different types of lights that I can pick and choose from. I can go as deep as I want to go. My ADD brain is going to stop at, I just need this. I need to make the call. I need to connect on my whatever that is. And I've got to realize that as I'm going to pick and choose what I'm going to do, I'm going to be thinking, okay, how much do I need? What's not my objective, but what do I really need here? So
let's sort of summarize some of the things we've talked about. A learner for life, the value of it, that life is a continuous learning process. Yes, we can go deep. Yes, we can be broad. Yes, we can do it at our own pace. But I think the important part is the benefits that come out of learning for life. Did a little article research. It's an article from Aging Forward. And it talked about that and we sort of referenced it earlier, the cognitive functions of things as far as keeping our brain sharp, helping to slow the age-related cognitive decline. It's creating a connectivity of disciplines, which is pretty cool. Mental and emotional well-being, it increases our confidence. We're learning more, right? We're feeling greater about ourselves. It creates new social connections where you finally have somebody that you are become interested with, or they become interested in you based upon their particular topic that you're talking about. It enhances a sense of purpose. Now I'm learning how to play the guitar. He's going to learn how to play the banjo. You're going to get involved with chess. It provides a personal and professional advantages, which we know, right? You can enrich your life and you become relevant with things. So there are so many attributes and benefits in order for us to be a learner for life. And I think one of the most important things is that it keeps us stimulated at times where maybe we've lost that stimulation because we're no longer talking about Crisco or no longer talking about footwear.
It stimulates that curiosity. There's something in us that wants to be curious, and we got to scratch that itch, and you got to step out to go do that, And I think at the end of the day, when I think about everybody who have been great life learners, there's something out there that says, I want to keep my brain really active. I think that's really a big motivator for people to say, I don't want dementia. I don't want to go. I know I need to stimulate my brain. I've got to go do things to do it.
If you notice on your iPad, there's so many games now, all these brain challenge things, right? That's fine. That's good in itself. But that still means let's go out and do something with our hands physically, with our mind, solving problems that are confronting us in playing a guitar.
Totally.
Right?
So I went and Googled what are some interesting things to learn, skills to gain for senior citizens. And it gave me a list. And I added a couple and it took off a couple. But here are some things from this article that I found that could be good for seniors to learn.
Are you telling Dale and I need to do this because you're not in that classification yet? Being
No.
the youngest one here?
Right.
Quit picking on us, will you?
Yeah. Well, I'm AARP eligible next week.
Oh, you're getting the mail.
You'll finally be getting stuff on Wednesdays.
That's right.
They're really smart because they get you mailing direct mail. You still get paper stuff that says join ARP. They know how to get you.
All right, get to your list.
The first one that was on tops of all of the lists I found was playing an instrument. So interesting top of the list.
High five.
Cooking and baking. I added playing chess because that's where I'm doing right now. Writing, learning how to write. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who have great stories to tell, and learning how to put those thoughts together in a shareable way, I think is really important. Pottery, crafting, learning a foreign language.
That's big.
Useful. Trading stocks.
Day traders.
Yeah.
That was really big.
I make a
15
mistake, I'm in
years
trouble.
ago.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who was leaving Proctor was day trading.
Yeah.
The minute they left Proctor.
Magic or card tricks. I think that's interesting.
I like that.
Fantasy football.
Oh, yeah.
Did it.
I get it.
That's not a skill or a knowledge set everybody has. The Bible, learning more about that. Gardening, technology basics. You talked about your cell phone, whether it's your new car or your cell phone or setting up your Wi-Fi, whatever it is. I think there's some gained neuroplasticity in learning technology.
Let's add AI to that. I'm starting to see a lot of senior courses about, hey, how do you use AI in your retirement?
And then yoga, I think, is interesting. And then travel, not just doing it, but learning about it is a knowledge set.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people that go on on these cruises, and then they go to places, but the cruises are destined on like Paul's travels out in theme-based type of stuff, and go to the promised land and sort of talk about all that kind of stuff, and that's really cool.
So I think the advice we're trying to share, or the concept we'd like to encourage maybe for 2026, is get learning. Get out there. You're not done. You have more to. We've always said you have more to offer, but you have more to learn, and there's a lot of benefits as we've highlighted through all of this. The idea of continuing to learn.
Yeah, and as we always say on this is that We're not experts. We have experiences. And yeah, I appreciate you saying this for people that are listening. But guess what? I'm going to start with me.
Sure.
And I got to do something about it. And so keep me accountable. I want to come back in here at some point. You ask me questions if I'm playing the guitar, and I will be.
And don't bring your 6-year-old great grandnephew around to teach me how to play chess. I don't need that disappointment in my life.
Yeah, you don't need that. And I'm going to say, Curt, if you do what you're going to do, our music for this podcast should be your guitar. Yes. So you've got 4 months to learn it.
Oh, boy. Wow. Okay. I'll use AI.
God, that'll work. That'll work. All right.
And thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast.
We'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the 1819 Innovation Lab at the University of Cincinnati for their incredible support and partnership making this show possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more of our content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as Instagram. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at info@redirect-u.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect Podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.